use restrictions. We asked for temporary but severe lifestyle changes. We've received exceptional cooperation from our customers since Thursday afternoon. Because of that, by Friday morning, the system had recovered to a point that we could begin to allow the Public Works Utility Operations crews to begin flushing the distribution system. And they started that Friday morning with assistance from Parks and Recreation, staff from the fire department, the water plant, and other divisions within Public Works. Additionally, to allow us to do this aggressive flushing schedule, we made use of equipment that was loaned to us by Story City and by Nevada. Residents of Ames are familiar with our traditional spring flushing that takes 5 weeks. This time we managed to flush the system in 26 hours. The city's flushing operation was completed at about 11:10 yesterday morning, Saturday, August 14th. Staff from Iowa State University began flushing their distribution system at about 6:30 Friday evening, and they concluded that about 5 hours later. The flushing operation took nearly a normal day's worth of water for the community, and at the end of the flushing operation, while we were substantially better than we were a few days prior, the water volume in the elevated tanks still had been drawn down by that flushing operation. At times during that flushing process, operators at the water plant were pumping treated water into the distribution system at a rate of 8,800 gallons a minute. When the flushing operation concluded, the plant operators used the next 3 hours to refill the elevated tanks. The situation played out yesterday exactly as we had envisioned yesterday morning, and by the time the use restrictions were lifted at 2 p.m. yesterday afternoon, the system was perfectly prepared for it. And with the lifting of those restrictions yesterday afternoon, we achieved the first of our 2 goals. Work on that second goal, however, began long before we achieved the first one. Thursday morning, staff from the Water and Pollution Control Department's Laboratory Service Division targeted 3 large areas of our community for sampling. We pulled samples from areas north of 20th Street, from all areas east of the Skunk River, and from the Southdale area. A total of 50 samples were collected on Thursday. Friday, we learned that all 50 samples came back negative for indicator bacteria. On Friday, samples were collected south of Highway 30, starting at the ISU Research Park, going to the western city limits, from the South Dakota and Mortensen Road neighborhood, and along the boundary between the 2 pressure zones in our distribution system. A total of 32 samples were collected on Friday, and when those results were read on Saturday, all 32 of those were negative for bacteria. And then yesterday, just as the flushing effort was wrapping up, 6 teams from the Water and Pollution Control Department blanketed the city, collecting an additional 51 samples from our distribution system. Simultaneously, Iowa State University collected another 40 samples from their distribution system. And I learned earlier this morning that all of those samples were brought to the city certified lab for analysis. We did get another bit of assistance yesterday when laboratory materials provided by the University of Iowa Hygienics Lab arrived. These chemicals allowed us to use a modified bacteria test that shortened the test time from 24 hours to 18 hours. The result of all 91 samples that were collected yesterday came back negative for bacteria. So in total, we had 173 samples that were taken from throughout our distribution system in a 3-day period, and every sample from both the city and the ISU distribution system came back clean. A few hours ago, Phil Probst, our water plant superintendent, consulted with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources on the actions we've taken to recover our distribution system and on the testing performed to ensure the safety of the water. And Clark Thompson from Iowa State University also participated in that conference call. And with the concurrence of the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, I am thrilled beyond belief to tell you that effective immediately, the boil water order is lifted. There are no remaining restrictions on the use of tap water in the city of Ames or the ISU campus. Now, I do have some recommended actions for our customers to take to make sure that they have the high quality water in their own internal plumbing systems. We would suggest that you go to each faucet in your property one at a time and open it fully. And then hold your finger under the running water until you feel that water turn colder. That'll indicate that you flushed all the water out of your internal plumbing system that's warmed up and that you're pulling cool, fresh water from the distribution system. You do want to make sure that you do this from every location in your property that water may be consumed from. We're suggesting that you run your dishwasher once with no dishes loaded. When you turn your ice makers back on, throw away the first 2 batches of ice. If you've used hot water since Wednesday, which is most of us to take showers, we're going to suggest that you turn on your shower completely to the hot side and let it run until that shower runs cold, just like your 14-year-old was in the shower. If you have an in-home treatment system, I'm going to suggest that you contact your system provider for the specifics on how you should flush that out. This has been a long and trying ordeal for our community, and I can't begin to tell you how proud I am of the colleagues of mine who have sat behind me these last few days. I've been asked how we got this done 2 days earlier than we originally thought. And the reason is that I never once heard anybody say, that's not my job. When I asked somebody for another hour, they never turned me down. If something needed to be done, the nearest person just did it. So to everyone who helped bring our system back to life, I'll wrap it up just by saying, you have my respect and admiration.
John, we're very proud. Do you have any questions for John?
What are you going to do now, John?
I'm going to take a shower and a nap.
John,
Yeah.
You mentioned in yesterday's press conference that, like I think it was Friday about 3:30, there were cheers in the center when the storm passed without dropping any water. Was that kind of the moment that this entire crisis sort of turned the corner? It seemed like everybody's mood was a little bit better after that whole thing had passed. So.
Yeah, on the flushing of the distribution system, Friday morning, things kind of started to turn the corner for us when the volume came up. Mm-hmm. But we were, I'll say, significantly concerned through the early afternoon on Friday about the weather taking a turn on us and some sort of a natural disaster coming down on top of us. So yeah, once the National Weather Service took away that flash flood watch on Friday afternoon, we had a pretty good feel that things were finally starting to break our direction.
Are there any other questions for John or anyone else in the water department? Thank you. As John indicated and has been indicating so ably to us over the last several days, his department has been fighting, on one hand, the floods, monitoring river levels, and then secondarily, but became primary, the whole water distribution system. So, a job well done. This is from the first notification that the citizens of Ames got. This was noted as being an unprecedented flood. Little did we know how unprecedented the whole week was going to continue with the losing of our water supply. So I think it is fair to say that every citizen of Ames, one way or another, has certainly been affected in the last few days. The last 6 days have been very, very long. They have been totally devoted to the subject of health and safety for the residents of Ames. Now, excuse me, however, we're turning to the long-term recovery. That's some of your water.
That is a visual.
And admittedly, that is something which we still do not know the extent of the damage that have been for individual homeowners as well as commercial properties and industry. But we do know that it is very extensive. And that is something that is going to be more than 6 days, certainly, in the recovery process. We announced day before yesterday